Let's talk about gender. That's not going to make anybody angry. We're deep in the middle of a section of class where we're talking about identity, and in order to focus the conversation in some way, we're going to have to talk about some specific identities. But identity is one of these tricky things for a lot of reasons. People get really invested in their identity, and any attempt to question it or to question how they see other people tends to make people really angry. So, let's make a lot of people really angry. When we talk about identity, we tend to talk about it in terms of gender, because lots of us tend to think that how identity works in the real world in terms of gender is something that's kind of obvious, because there are a lot of possible obvious examples of things that push gender. What do you think of when you think of femininity? Strolling through a field of lavender? Barbie? The color pink? These are all cultural associations that come to us very, very quickly. Now, the interesting thing when you're talking about any identity, but I think it becomes very true when you're talking about things like gender, is that the line between fantasy and reality tends to get blurred, to the point where the things that aren't real, the stereotypes, the images, have a lot more power and a lot more effect than the reality, at least in the way our culture works. And this isn't just an American thing, this happens worldwide. Although American stereotypes do give us an interesting test case. Does everyone in America worship Walmart, have guns, have a trailer park relative? Well, no, of course not. But there's this interesting trend that's happening throughout the world of people who hold American parties. Look at the food they have available. Hot dogs, hamburgers, junk food, corn on the cob. Where they play beer pong and drink out of solo cups. This picture is actually from a Russian party. And there's an interesting thing where you go into grocery stores throughout the world, there's a possibility they might have an American foods aisle. This one, I believe, is from London. But I could be wrong. I've seen pictures of American food aisles from all over the place. Look at what American food is. Marshmallow fluff, Twinkies, Aunt Jemima, chocolate syrup. Now, the thing with any stereotype and image is that they have a certain amount of power. They have a certain amount of ability to change how we see people. So let's talk about how gender has a power to change how we see people and shape stereotypes. Sometimes in very, very weird ways. We'll start with masculinity. Does anyone remember the metrosexual trend of a few years back where it was being a lumberjack but a well-groomed one with a fancy beard and mustache? Well, maybe not, but you might have seen some masculine products. Man-sized Kleenex. The original big tissue, because men apparently generate more mucus. Man yogurt. Buddhism for dudes. Dial for men. It's an extra large soap that has football hand grips on them. This is a great one. Q-tips sold and marketed to men. Men's ultimate multi-tool. Because you got to make it a tool and put that diamond plating on it to market to men. Because as men, we need tools and we need metal. Then there's unnecessary gendering of items, like the bro nut. Because apparently a donut, unless you call it a bro nut, is too feminine or something. I don't know. There are weird ideas as to what it means to be a man in terms of how that relates to what it means to be a woman. Check out this advertising image for Tag body spray. If you don't know what Tag is, it's kind of like the discount version of Axe, the Dude Bro body spray. And apparently they're selling it as this will cause women to mob you. I don't know if this is tremendously desirable because the woman with the ponytail who's flying in from the top looks like she's about to knee the living crap out of that dude. And let's not forget the woman in the back who's running with a very mean look on her face. But this is the role. Do this, women, because they have no mind of their own, will mob you. There's a lot of gender inequality in how gender gets used to sell images. And sometimes the stereotypes between men and women can come out in the most obviously weird ways. The same product, earplugs. It's extreme protection for men. The women one is Sleep Pretty in Pink, because we all know that when you're trying to sleep and need an earplug, the color of it and how attractive it is important. Years and years ago, I saw an image of a company that was selling computers for boys and girls. The boy computer, Hot Wheels, bright colors, lots of racing games, but also lots of math builders and science builders. The Barbie computer had pink flowers on it and included a lot more fashion-oriented games. There is gender at work. Also, as an aside, aren't you glad monitors aren't that size anymore? Sometimes gender roles will get very, very disturbing. This is an ad I've eventually found out for cologne. Now, cologne ads are weird because you can't really market the product, but most advertising doesn't market the product itself anyway. They market the image that the product must give you. And the image that I get from this is a little bit disturbing. Not just that there are conventionally attractive men and women about to eat each other's faces, but the way the man is pinning down and dominating and not allowing the female to escape. Now, unless you think I'm reading a bit into this, let's look at another cologne ad. Dolce & Gabbana. Apparently this makes everybody look like mannequins. But do we really have to question who, using this product, will have the power and how they will see the other people? Gender in advertisement is always an area that's fraught with subjects that'll just blow your head out, because advertising quite often are the least subtle people in the history of the world. I guess we like that, but it leads to things like this lovely ad from the 60s or 70s. You can't set her free, but you can make her feel less anxious. This is an ad for a sedative. We can't make your life any better, but we can drug you up. Seems a fairly... well, I'll leave it to you as to whether this is frightening. And we're just going to close out this nice little short video on how gender plays out in the real world by showing you an ad from fast food. Now, I'm a vegetarian. I can't say that sandwich looks attractive at all, but even if I was not a vegetarian, I think that I would go out of my way not to eat Burger King if I saw this. And I also have to wonder how this is seen by potential female customers. I know I did, not too long after this image came to light, run across an interview with the model of this image, and they did not tell her how her image was going to be used, and she was horrified. But apparently Burger King thinks this will make you want to eat this. Yeah, it's kind of ridiculous from a this is what they find attractive point of view, but the gender politics aren't just below the surface. They're pretty much in your face. And lest you think that nobody's actually going to base their worldview on this, go back at the video and look at those American products for a second. That's all I'm saying. At this point, you're probably wondering, why gender? Why do we focus on gender? Yeah, we see gender, but we see a lot of other identities. Why didn't we do an in-depth explanation of nerds, geeks, Dungeons and Dragons players, Well, we could have. Gender is one that is, I like to call them the big three. Race, class, and gender are the identities that people who focus on identity focus on when they focus on identity. You can tell I don't write these things in advance, huh? So it's one that we're all familiar with. Now, let's cut off something right now. I'm not saying there is a right way to look at male, masculine, female, feminine, or any of that stuff. We're just looking at images that come across in culture. And I'm not trying to make anybody see anything in any particular way. But if you really want to get everything you can from this, you've got to compare and contrast all the different versions, all the different masculinities, all the different femininities, and certain truths will come out. And these are the kind of things that you should be thinking about when you're working on your paper. I know that you get to identify whatever subculture in whatever way you want for this essay, but gender almost always plays some kind of role in that, and addressing that is going to be a good idea because it's going to give you more stuff to do. Anyway, let me know if you have any questions. You can always hit me up via Remind. Otherwise, I will see you in the next video. Bye, y'all.